I'd been working on several scripts, including the story of a guy going to be a teacher in France, a dude stuck in prison, and the girlfriend who put him there because he was abusive, as well as a story about a girl wandering through the woods. And none of my scripts were doing anything because they were all kind of high concept pieces without any real story. And after beating my head against stuff for quite some time, one night Brittany, who felt like she'd been flirting too much with a guy, was like, "Man, I'm a succubus." And there it was, the story of a succubus married to a human.
The one thing in film that I've always thought I'd never really want to go there when I make a movie is sex. And the one thing that Luke likes to do is, let's go talk about relationships and the sex thing involved there. And I'm like, you son of a gun. But it's a good thing because we balance each other out at the end of the day. So he may want to push some things and I may say, I don't know if I really want to go there. And we'll talk about it. You build up trust over time. So having read the first draft and getting a clue of what Luke was going after, I was like, okay, this could be good. This could be interesting. And at the end of the day, as always, it's Luke's movie. So I always have the deniability of, I didn't write it, guys. I just helped him make it and gave pointers.
The actual script writing process was incredibly difficult because now I had to get a succubus and a human together. I also found it interesting that people didn't know what succubi were. I'm part of a geek culture, and so succubi are just normal. I don't know if that's because I've played too much Diablo and World of Warcraft, because I feel like everybody knows what succubi are, but clearly not, because my mother, who is incredibly well-read, was like, succubi? But I also didn't want to be like, hey, I'm a succubus. Although there were several drafts of the script where I had that start out. So really the question was, how in the world do I start a script dealing with succubi and humans and getting these two people together?
The first draft of the script, there was more setup for the relationship. There was more sex, more things that I just wasn't expecting. I should have. I know Luke, and I should have known all this was coming. It was uncomfortable to some extent because when you identify with something that's not cool, it's not cool. You don't like it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means I had an emotional reaction to it. It means that there's something real there. And knowing what Luke's trying to get at, what he's interested in exploring, is worth exploring. It may not be fun, but that shouldn't be something that's just off limits because it's uncomfortable or we don't usually talk about it. That's actually the whole purpose of art sometimes.
So for the first many drafts of the script, it was nothing but 8 pages of two people talking. I had everything from two people meeting in the park. I had scenes where they went on hikes. I had scenes where they went to her bedroom and talked. I had this whole sub-theme where Randall was really into the spiritual discipline of chastity because you have succubi and humans living together, and so here he is looking for something deeper and more meaningful in this ancient religious ideology. I had some great flirting moments with Eleanor really pushing this guy. Every time he would let down his guard, she'd like move in a little bit closer, and then he would give her this look like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, sorry, that's a bad habit, like stress eating. Whenever she's stressed, she tries to cuddle in closer. And I loved it. I loved that idea, and I had to cut it.
You just start to feel it when you're reading this script. It's supposed to be a short, that there's these scenes that go on way too long, that don't add because they don't get you anywhere fast enough. And if the point is this scene in the middle or at the end, what does it take to get you there? I remember my screenwriting teacher always saying, get in as late as possible and leave as early as possible.
It was so rough trying to get these characters together in a short period of time. I have drafts that are pushing into the 30-page range, which is really long for a short. How do I get them together faster? Is he into her or not? But if he's into her, then we've got this problem because then there's no reason for them to follow through with it because she's a succubi, so she's just enthralling him. So I had to have him be distant. How in the world do I get a guy who originally shoves her off to kind of accept her and allow her into his life? So I had this whole vulnerability thing where she had really liked this married man named Stefan. He was able to like break free of her enthrall long enough to like run off to the bathroom and commit suicide. And then she has this moment where she sees his wife and they kind of have this like, oh, you're the girl, you know, like thing. And that wasn't going to be clear, and it was contrived. And also Stefan then was a terrible character. And so that was That was the thing I had to cut.
Where's Stefan?
And Jonathan said, you realize that your audience has no idea who any of these people are or what's going on with that. I said, yeah, that's not a problem, though, because this is a wider world. It's bigger than the movie itself.
And you get the sense of what that conflict is about, too. And that's important, and that's revealing, even if Stefan never gets explained or revealed. And let me tell you that as far as we could figure out, that's good for you, because everything we tried just did not work.
It's not explicitly written in the script, but I had it so that the humans are always eating and the succubi don't. And so in the opening sequence, all the humans have food, the succubi all have drinks, although it doesn't show up in the final production at all. Like, you don't catch that theme. But we've got Elinore making food because she cares about her husband. And so there's this selflessness there that I really liked. In earlier drafts of the script, I had this pizza theme where they're becoming friends over pizza. I did have this little discussion about pizza being a symbol of hope, and ultimately that became the waffle, and I lost the line about hope. But the theme is still there. The theme of food as a symbol of hope for connection, for opportunity, for growth.
So all these many meetings when it comes to the script, there were many, many different iterations. And what was different this time is I didn't feel like many of my ideas were giving any progress. We kept on trying variations and variations and variations.
But the central theme of the story was always there. And that was selfishness ruining fulfillment within the marriage relationship.
You could tell this is the thing that matters to Luke. The two main characters had an argument, and she's trying to kind of reconcile a little bit, but he won't even talk to her. The script says, and she looks into the screen and a tear rolls down her eye and cuts to black. And you're like, well, that was mean. Trying to set everything up to get there is a long time, but that's what he cares about.
After writing several iterations where there are just 10 pages of trying to get these two characters together, Jonathan had a meeting with a couple of his writing buddies.
And finally, one of my friends just looked at me and was like, then why are we wasting all of our time trying to get there? Let's just start in a restaurant.
I took a whole bunch of other elements that had been scattered throughout the entire script and brought them together into this one scene. I had a couple iterations where like they meet at the restaurant. That wasn't working because then they had to go on a walk at night and then, what was going on? So finally, I was out running errands with Talia and I thought, why don't I start this script when they're already together? Because really the point of the story is not that they got together. The point of the story is that they are together and it's not easy.
Cutting out them meeting each other, flirting, having their first potential interaction and then a sexual interaction, all these lead up. And it's like, we don't care. We don't need that. Let's just go straight to they're married and there's problems.
Being married and dealing with your own selfishness, it's brutal. And so I'm writing a script to try and work through that. And I can tell you everything up through the fight is totally real. But then how do I come out of that with this script? Because I haven't personally walked beyond that yet. I haven't gotten to the point where I can even say, yeah, this is what it's like on the other side.
And this is the funny part, because Luke goes in there and he's like, I want to get to this scene of darkness, and I have no idea how to get out of it. And that's okay. That's a writer thing, right? It's personal. Luke understands this part of the story. He wants to talk about something here. And he knows the story doesn't end there, but it's not as personal yet, or he doesn't necessarily know the way out of it over here. So the ending originally was preaching. Literally. There was the two main characters in a church with a priest
named Father Gengo. What I liked about that whole approach was that I was able to explore some of the themes within sexuality that I believe that our current culture kind of gets wrong, or at least doesn't quite understand from the religious context. So I wanted to draw that whole theme out about why in the world does the church recommend that you not have sex before marriage? Why is it that if you have a pretty good sex life before you get married, why does it fall apart once you get married? Like, why does it become negative instead of this kind of fun positive? What is going on with that? And I believe that all ties into this selfishness element. And so I was really excited by the possibility of exploring that. But as I wrote, it was just pages and pages, and it was preaching. And
we started to realize that as much as we wanted that theme and that idea to get across, and that was really good and important, that it was not going to come across well if it was that scene.
It automatically gives people a particular view. One of my friends read the script and she was like, man, like the minute that the Catholic priest guy showed up in the script, I was just like, I'm done, I'm out. And so, okay, well, that's obviously not working the way I want it to.
So we said, we'll try to show it more. Well, how do you show it? Well, my first idea was, let's just get an elderly couple. How do you know it exists? You know it exists because there are some people who seem to have at least gotten a lot closer than most.
And so I had a couple drafts with them in it, and that also felt kind of contrived and dumb, and it wasn't working. And so I really had to stop the story with a hope for the future, but there's no guarantees here. And I don't even know exactly what it looks like on the other side of that.
It's the theme that matters, is I will be selfless. I will do something for you. I will cook you a meal, even though it has literally no effect on me whatsoever. And this time I won't even do it trying to get something out of you. I'm just going to do it because I'm going to try. And that's what we tried to get at the end there.
What I liked about the succubus angle was that I could flip the gender roles in a sense. Normally it's guys pushing for sex and then the girls want to have some kind of relationship. But really, in the end, guys are looking for some kind of relationship as well. One of the interesting themes that developed for me as I was writing was a world without technology. Because this whole film is about interpersonal connection, phones, emailing, even driving, just felt like it was creating too much distance in a film that had to be about people together, right next to each other, who were disconnected. I wanted that to be because of a self-focus, not because somebody is being drawn away by something else. I knew I couldn't have just one succubus in this story because the whole point was that we've got this world of succubi and humans, and that's where Jezebel and Cleopatra came in. I liked them. They were fun. They were funny. Jezebel was like, as long as you can keep getting hot guys, why not? And then you've got Cleopatra, who's kind of in this long-standing relationship with her human. And so you've kind of got these two different extremes, and then you've got Eleanor in the middle. But then it was like, how do you make these characters likable? So I had scenes with them all having breakfast, and Jezebel disheveled because she'd had a great night, but then the guy had left. Or I had the guy there in the morning, and what was she doing and how was it working? I had all these different attempts to try and bring these characters together, and it was all forced and pushed, and it was really hard.
Jezebel was, I remember thinking, was annoying, and Cleo was like overly motherly, and I was like, what's your problem? Like, I don't know why anyone would ever hang out with these people, ever. This seems fake to me.
So I cut it. I rewrote. I reworked it all.
It was good that Luke kept them in there. He loved them. The really important thing is that they're characters for Eleanor to go talk to, so we have a chance to know what she's thinking and feeling about stuff. Because otherwise we need to write a book because she'd just be thinking all these things.
Thankfully, I had Jonathan constantly pushing me, saying, come on, you can do better than this. Throw that out. That's not working. Do better.
Luke gave it his all. He can be like, okay, do we try it this way? Do we try this scene? Are they in a park? Do we start in a restaurant? Do we have an old couple? Do we have Father Again Go? Do we have the Stefan scene with pictures? There was a journal at one point. There was a guy in her bed. The variations on the characters, the variations on the storyline, the plot, shifted a lot. Now, this is why you can figure out what the core was.
So this is a script about selfishness, and that's a really deep theme. And how do you show that visually? And I'm not convinced that we successfully did it. So here's a script with lots of depth behind it, but I don't know if the execution holds up to that.
There's these themes he's trying to get at in every one of his films that are generally more complex than his films are able to get across.
I started pre-production even before the script was done. We were meeting, I felt like, all the time.
Luke thinks that we had meetings all the time.
We met about the script, and we met about the costumes, and we met about what we needed to do. We met about how it was breaking down.
I don't think we had nearly enough meetings or pre-production for the movie.
It was just nothing but meetings all the time.
We probably could have used a lot more time because it was kind of a complicated creature feature because you have the succubi and that requires special costumes and special horns and the tails and all that kind of stuff.
I really wanted to make sure we were trying to do a bigger crew this time because I wanted to have more people who could do the various jobs that would make this thing a reality. And Luke hates trying to rope people into his projects. He feels like he's burdening everybody else with his life or something. The idea was not to just grab people and force them into labor, but try to find people who love that kind of stuff. and create a cool thing together, because filmmaking is supposed to be collaborative.
I am so excited to make a succubus. I can't exactly explain that.
It was a blast working with Kavya. She had these amazing sketches for the ideas that she had for who the characters were going to be, and I was still rewriting the script, and so she came up with several other costume ideas that we ended up not being able to use. But we didn't even get to use the initial costume design sketches because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stuff that I just didn't give time for. One of the first things that we had to do was figure out the creature effects, because this is a succubi movie, and so I needed to have horns and tails, and I wanted wings. I went to Laurel from Laurel Tree Workshop. She was like, okay, that's going to be a stretch to try and get all that done, but I'll work on it. Her early prototypes were amazing. At the same time, it also took a long time, and Laurel came to me and she said, I just don't have time to do it to the level that I want to be able to do it to. And that kind of became the theme of pre-production. People couldn't do the best work that they wanted to do.
The whole tail thing worked really well. You put the tail harness on, and it's like this weird feeling of an extension of your body. And you're like, huh, I totally believe I have a tail.
I really wanted wings. And so we bought a whole bunch of foam, and Laurel cut out the first little shape and stuck it on her back, and I was like, that looks great! And everybody else was like, Luke, you're crazy.
I just remember thinking, we gotta cut these wings. We gotta cut it.
And ultimately, it's good that we didn't have them, I guess. They did not have nearly the kind of presence that the tails did. I wanted them. But that's one of those dreams that died throughout this production.
So that way we get that really beautiful silhouette.
Because otherwise, it's gonna cut the body.
Yeah, it's gonna look really strange. And then depending on the angles that they fall to.
Even though we had somewhere around 6 months, the script wasn't fully done until later. Pre-production time is really about having everything kind of set up in a basic idea, and then putting the pieces together and having people work on their craft. And all those people will be able to spend the 6 months finding the cool places, making the cool costumes, thinking about the cool shots, rehearsals, and all that. That's the ideal. And we just weren't prepared.
It unfortunately hurts the people that I'm working with more than it hurts the project, because Laurel came through with the tails. And Brittany ended up working until 2 a.m. before our first shoot day to get the horns done.
We got the horns from some kind of a costume shop. They had very visible seam lines where they had been cast together, and then putting on a new finish to all of them so that they would look a little more put together.
And thankfully they were made out of this really light foam, so that made them light and not crazy heavy. Then it was a question of how do we attach them. And originally we were going to do these headbands with little spikes out of them and then stick the horn on it and maybe do like a 3-prong so that it doesn't rotate and stuff. And thankfully, because everybody was wearing a wig, you could stick it on there, but then there was no way to make it attach. And so ultimately, the night before shooting, where we needed to have these horns to attach, it was about 9 p.m. and we still didn't have a method for making that work. Kavi and I ended up running to a store looking for headbands and then coming back with hot glue and pretty high-powered magnets.
This is attempt number 4 at trying to get the horns to stay. And there are magnets attached to the headbands. 3 magnets then go across the horn, which allows us to just pop them on, and they're pretty stable. The only thing is it puts a little bit of tension because you are wearing a headband underneath a wig, but for our 4th attempt, it's right on key.
And that's the crazy part about movies. You know, you're shooting in like 4 hours or 8 hours, and you're still working on the pieces that you need to make the movie come together.
The way the very beginning scene was written was very clearly a one-shot. No edits, no cuts. And I was like, Luke, it sounds like you want to do a one-shot. And Luke's like, yeah, we'll do a one-shot. Oh, okay. Well, then how are we going to do a convincing one-shot? We ended up going to the Happening Brewery and talking to the owners and getting good contacts. Even before that, I kind of drew out a basic sketch. There's a bar here, and there's kind of a hallway back here, and there's tables, and we just need to have a decent Steadicam, which Luke's got his DIY one he did a long time ago, and it works fairly effectively. So it's like, well, let's just use it and see what we can do. So we got the camera and we got the Steadicam. We went upstairs to another location and tried to do a mock of the space and just practiced the movement. And it was all about blocking too, where it's like we need to have the waitress. We're going to follow these people in, but then there's going to be a waitress. We're going to kind of go join her, and then we're going to watch the table, and then we're going to follow her again to another table. And We blocked it, we choreographed it, and we shot it that night, practiced it. We didn't have enough people, we didn't have a big enough space, but we did it. And that really helped because we were able to see in the footage, hey, this might actually work. And we got Connor to come in and help when he actually camera operated. So that was huge. Now, it's not the best one shot ever, but it's got life. It's a lot of hard work from a lot of people, but that sequence comes together well.
One of the girls that I wanted to do a screen test with today told me that one of the other girls has a stomach flu. And I was like, well, let me call the other girl who's going to come over. And she said, well, I'm already running super late, so what if we did it this afternoon? So I messaged the first girl back and said, hey, do you want to do something this afternoon, maybe? And of course, I haven't heard anything back yet. So it might be that we only do one real screen test, trying to figure out who should play what role. This is important and difficult.
What's this one's name?
Oh, hey, I'm Simon.
I just want to remind everyone, this story is about succubi and marriage and sex and all these different things that come along with it. So who do you cast as a sex demon?
You have these images in your head of who you're going to have be part of your movie. And then you look around and it's not what you envisioned.
Talking to a young, attractive woman and trying to convince her to get in front of a camera and potentially be rather revealing because she's playing a sex demon who's having all sorts of problems with her husband, who's a human in the middle of a sexual dysfunction. You see where I'm going?
The succubi world is really different, but I'm excited to do something like that, and I don't get the chance to act a lot, so I'm just excited to be doing that.
I remember talking with Luke about trying to find actors, and I just thought, well, he's been a really big part in my life and a really big help to me, so I want to help in any way that I can. And I volunteered my fiance, and he's Randall.
I'm really having fun being Jezebel because she's just completely insane and that's always fun to do.
Because who I had in my head when I was writing was totally different from the girls that I had. I couldn't figure out who belonged in which role. And so I had everybody change roles over and over again.
He's the one. He's got so much repressed sexual energy.
His sexual energy is so repressed. Once we're together, I won't need to eat for days, months.
His sexual energy is so repressed. Once we're together, I won't need to feed for days, months. Just being near him.
That was a really clever way to work with limited casting opportunities.
And I just watched it a couple times. And then I sat down with Jonathan. So now it's a question of who's actually going to be better for the role.
If you do Jess and Emma and Talia,
Yep.
physicality-wise, you're
Right.
going to definitely have this, triangle.
This is a movie that deals with physicality.
Yes.
I'm dealing with succubi. I have to be able to play off of that.
It doesn't work like that.
Because I don't like asking people to devote time to my projects, I didn't feel good about asking people to come with us shopping to go buy costume stuff. Part of that also was because we are all so busy. So really it was like, okay, Kavi and I both have time at 8 p.m. to go run to the local thrift store and look at stuff for an hour before they close. And so we went and we just bought stuff. We basically just picked up everything that we thought would fit within the color scheme.
Shen will be green. And Jezebel, she will be hot pink. And purple for Cleo, because it's kind of this motherly thing.
That was something that Kavi brought that was really cool. And that ultimately ended up changing the color of the panty, because in the original script it was going to be a flaming red panty, because that makes the most sense from a sex standpoint. But Eleanor's character was red. It didn't make sense for her to have a red panty. So she needed to have a green panty for the color of Shen. And so Kavi and I go to a lingerie store and we're walking around looking for this very specific color. And apparently this is Hunter green or Kelly green. I still don't know the difference between Kelly and Hunter green. So I'm like, okay, I need a Kelly Hunter green. And Kavi starts laughing and she's like, those are two different colors. The wonderful shop girl was like, I know we've got something that's green. I know it. And so we tore the entire store apart, opened up every drawer to find the very specific one. And there was just one. It is interesting being a filmmaker and a director. You go and you end up in places that you wouldn't normally expect yourself to be necessarily to make a movie. And a lingerie shop wasn't exactly on my mental state of where I was going to end up for a film. Not that I haven't been in crazier places than that, but that's for a different story. we needed multicolor fancy wigs. And so Kavi and I went to a bunch of different places, looking at wigs, looking at the options. She, being the cosplayer extraordinaire, knows all about wigs, and so it was really good to have her there. And so we looked through different stuff, found the different ones that we wanted. The one for Elinore is just absolutely gorgeous. It's this red with ombre, what, I don't even know, Spanish? Ombre? Okay, so it looks absolutely gorgeous. It has these pieces that detach, the curls and all that, but it was a display model because they didn't have any more in bags. So I bought it at full price, display model. I'm still kind of a little bit sad about that because they didn't give me a discount. Thankfully, we have a friend in the hair industry, that's Sherston. She came over and helped us kind of have ideas for how we were going to take care of them and what we're going to do with that.
There was one beautiful lavender wig that was way too long and we trimmed it. It was probably my favorite wig out of all of them.
And it ended up looking absolutely gorgeous. In fact, all of the wigs just look fantastic. The one for Jezebel is just over the top amazing.
Wigs require a lot more maintenance than human hair. One of the wigs has these cool, like, ponytails that spiral. Those things get fuzzy just from having her wear them when they rub against her clothes or catch on different things. And so I have to take them and comb them back out, and so they're smooth again instead of just fluff. That's been a lot of work, and anytime there's a costume change, a lot of times that also requires the wigs to come off and then go back on, and there's several layers that go into that because we also have the horns. So there's like the wig cap, and then there's a headband with magnets, and then there's the wig, and then there's the horns, and it's a lot of work to get all of that on, but it looks pretty cool once it's all together.
I've been an extra in some of Luke's older movies, but this was the first one I kind of did any behind-the-scenes work. Luke and Brittany and Jonathan, we all worked together. They started talking about putting the team together and how they had never had a script supervisor before. Did I know what a script supervisor was? No. I Googled how to be a script supervisor. I printed out forms and I said, well, I guess I'll just keep track of things and go with the flow.
In this scene, Elinore opens the door, which implies that she probably has keys.
We would comb through the script and see what kinds of props we needed.
We went beyond just the obvious things that were called for to also things that were implied.
Like, we never specifically mentioned wedding rings. We need to make sure that they have them because they're married.
When you're going through and doing a breakdown of the script, you need to pay attention to what's happening on what days. You may shoot different script days on the same shoot day. You also need to keep track of which days you're shooting on each production day so that you can have all the supplies you need.
You know, if Elinore is out shopping and then later she's having a discussion with Randall, she needs to look exactly the same.
Luke is a no-budget filmmaker, which means he doesn't make a budget for his films, but he does spend money on them. Some things, particularly very specific items that are going to make it believable, it's worth spending the money for so that you can, in the background, sell the atmosphere and the mood. Sometimes I don't ask him in advance, I just get things and say, hey Luke, I got this for the film. The most detailed setup was the restaurant because the place that we shot was not actually a restaurant. We had to provide the water pitcher and the menus and the food and all of the stuff that you see the actors and the extras interacting with.
So the dollar store was fantastic for that. And we got a bunch of beer steins, the red plastic baskets.
And I got some like acrylic ice, and so the ice is sitting on the bottom and there's a little layer of water.
It was really fun making fake alcoholic drinks. So we got the beer steins, we filled them up with just root beer and some just cream soda and others. Then we mixed them so it kind of looked like we had multiple kinds of beer. We also got the martini glasses and different flavors of Gatorade. We tried to match the pink Gatorade and the red Gatorade and the blue Gatorade to the succubi. We didn't have purple Gatorade, but we mixed the red and the blue to make purple for Cleo because we got her back.
We told Dave, hey, we need a menu. He did the cover design and the logo. So we just borrowed the menu contents from another restaurant. And I think when we were getting them printed, the lady who was working was really excited and wanted to go to the restaurant. So I guess it was a good choice of like logo and stuff.
We talked a lot about what kind of food we wanted at the restaurant. What is a decent atmosphere for what we want the scene to be. It definitely started as a pizza place. At one point it was just an alcoholic bar, and then we ended up at a microbrewery, but we wanted it to be more of a wing place, and so we had the wings there.
Nice.
Luke doesn't think about background details at all. And there may be some directors who really like to micromanage, but in Luke's case, he knows it's a restaurant and that's all he cares about, and it's our job to figure out all the details and run them by him and fill in what all of those background details need to be so that the vision that he sees can be a thing on screen.
We had to go to the candy store to figure out what kind of lollipops would look most colorfully striking as well as slightly seductive, which is kind of what Luke wanted. We ended up finding some heart-shaped lollipops that were all in the colors, and we also found like the very long rock candy lollipops. Unfortunately, those kind of fell apart rather quickly.
Now your teeth are very pink.
Your teeth are really...
We need to get those not pink. How do we do that real quickly?
So we had to get a lot of extra lollipops to make sure that some were like able to be licked and then replaced.
It's all those little background details that are there in the scene, but they're not the focus of it that really sell it for what it is.
We're taking off at least 2 combs. 2 full combs.
You don't like to take the same step over and over again, and I'm thinking that all these things are actually going to help the film. The script over and over and over again. Screen tests over and over and over again. Tech tests over and over and over again. That's kind of the theme of this project, it feels like right now.
We had all of 2 rehearsal days.
Anybody want tea?
Sure. Eleanor is drawn to this guy like a cannonball to earth.
So, how you doing?
Eleanor bobs her head side to side in an I'm okay-ish kind of way. She stops and takes in what's going on. She sits.
Did Shen die?
What?
Oh, good.
So, Jess's dog is puking. Connor's puking. No one's showing up for rehearsal. I mean, people have showed up, but it's like, it's a half thing, and so it's just a lot of work need to be done, and not everyone's here, and it's sad, it's hard. But this is nothing. This is nothing. Try having a real succubus around. That's something. This is nothing.
This is not the first moment of this fight. This is the continuation of the fight. And action.
Well, that was delightful.
Could have been worse.
The waitress had thrown herself on you, sure.
Carrie's harmless.
You admitted you liked her.
Had we not already had ideas of how people were going to move around in a room or whatever, we would have had to take time on set to do that, and those were already long days with what we were doing. So it was probably good that we rehearsed. But it cut into people's time, and I don't like doing that.
I was up really late before day 1 of shooting. It was definitely after 1 or 2 a.m.
And we are finishing getting stuff packed up and ready to go for the first day of shooting tomorrow. You can see boxes out there, stuff that we want to take, plus boxes of stuff that never got put away.
Right. Okay, so it's first day of shooting. Going to Cleo's house.
I was late, even though we sort of strong-armed my mom's fiance into giving up his house to us for a day.
Well, it was a bit of a drive from where we are all located, so we loaded everything up in my car and...
It starts snowing, and we're like, oh, it's snowing. I guess there's going to be snow in this film.
It was a very nice house.
And at first, things were fine. I mean, we had a lot of space, so we just started putting down all the equipment.
We had a lot of stuff because there are a couple different script days. That's multiple different costume changes and all of the food and the snacks and the coffee to keep us going throughout the course of the day.
And my mom and her fiance are like trying to pretend that we're not there, like squared away in their one little bedroom.
Luke and Brittany are getting all of their stuff set up. The 3 succubi and Kavi are trying to get the hair and makeup done. And Jonathan and Connor and Luke are trying to set the living room up.
It's my first time being in that environment, which is not what you want to do.
And although it did take them a while to set up the living room and get everything done, it took even longer for the girls to get their hair and makeup done.
I'm the worst makeup artist. Contour, for heaven's sake, I have no idea. But it was really cool to get to see people like putting these really great skills into action.
If they had just made the horns the previous night.
I know that Brittany had stayed up really late the night before. By the end of the first shoot day, she was laying on the floor in the kitchen trying to take a nap because she was so tired. Poor girl.
And so that was just taking a long time.
Classic dudes were like, what's taking the girls so long? Because they're freaking succubi. That's why.
We weren't able to get started until I think, what was it, like 10 o'clock or something? And we had planned to start shooting at like 8 or something. 7:30 if we were really on our game. And we were not.
I was not surprised with how long it took to get all of our girls into makeup and costumes, but I think Luke was a little concerned with how much later we started than when we planned to start.
Luke definitely does get very stressed out. It's kind of funny, especially if you know him. He is really obviously trying really hard to be productive and respectful and kind, even though it's really, really stressful.
It's agony.
There's a certain amount of stress that's like non-functional at the beginning, and then we work into like the sweet spot where he operates really well. It worked out great though, because the Luke stress zone and the makeup time were pretty much at the same time.
Hot, hot, hot.
So the horns kept on falling off.
These need to cool before we put them on the headband again. While they're warm, they tend to pull off easier.
We had the right idea with the horns, but we had the wrong glue.
Okay, so just practice.
So in between takes, we'd have to re-glue it.
Okay,
That's what we can do.
here we go. And action.
32 days.
When you don't have a chance to test something in advance, you don't know what problems you're going to run into.
And the tails were not very comfortable to sit on.
He sat on my tail so many times. It's just flapping around behind you and you forget about it, so I was like tail whipping people.
The tails leaked black ink a little bit. So we had to like spread blankets out everywhere to make sure that we did not ruin the furniture that we were borrowing.
We basically were going to shoot in the living room for the entire day. Big window behind the couch.
It worked out well that it was snowing. It meant that the lighting that we had was pretty much consistent the entire day.
Which was really good because we were looking that way towards that couch constantly.
You called someone?
We were next to a kitchen. I think we put our stuff up there and then we started to set up for an over-the-shoulder. And then it was like, oh, guess what? All that crap we just put on the counter and the kitchen needs to go somewhere else.
Whatever.
And you know refrigerators, basically it's just complete silence until... So anyway, that went on and off intermittently throughout the day.
There's a cat that lives there, and we kept having to corral her off of the scene because she would just sort of like wander through. And we'd be nailing it, obviously, because that's always when it happens. We'd be totally nailing the scene and look over and be like, the cat's in it. And then we'd have to start completely over.
Having a mic on top of the camera is great, but when you get in the habit of trying to turn it on and off to save power, the problem is sometimes you leave it off when you're shooting. Oh, hey, so this was not on. Sorry, everybody. We had no sound from the camera on that.
I did, but then it just like went away and it wasn't supposed to be like this.
That's one of those things where you just kind of forget about it sometimes. Even if you're not planning to use it primarily, it's just good to have for a sync at least. We say sound rolling, but perhaps the guy with the camera should also be thinking about sound rolling as a check for him too and be like, oh right, is sound rolling for me? Right.
So my job as a script supervisor was to basically just read along the script as the actors were going along. I had to make sure that like the lines were being said correctly. I had to mark that we were getting coverage for all of the different lines and everything that we needed.
Roll camera, camera's rolling, and action.
I recorded what Luke would say about each of the shots to make sure we at least had one, maybe two, good shots of everything.
And cut. I like it.
Yeah.
You happy?
I'm great.
Moving on!
Essentially, we didn't use lights. We just bounced the light that was coming through the windows right back at their faces, so it wasn't just a silhouette against the window. I think the only time we used a light is the hallway. We actually set it up in the bathroom.
Like if the couch was here, it looks like the front door and the hallway are over here when the front door is actually over here.
We're shooting from one angle from where the actual front door is coming in, but at the same time, we're going the opposite direction to go where the hallway is. It's all that cheating fun stuff. But yeah, only one light, only for that front hallway. I do remember, as much as I like our over-the-shoulders, and you would think that an over-the-shoulder would be simple, like, hey, it's over the shoulder. It was a little complicated trying to get the right framing because the one character was standing up and the other one was sitting down, so just over the waist right at her, and that worked fine. I mean, I've watched a ton of films. You'd think I'd know already how to do an over-the-shoulder.
You could have fooled me.
Lunch was pretty good. It was like an egg and ham sandwich.
My philosophy with the food is we will provide snacks, water, coffee, tea, because some people don't like coffee. We had lunch stuff, so you just have everything available, and then people can snack as they go.
I hurt myself a little bit. I do remember that. I'm just moving a coffee table backwards, and somehow I run it over my toe.
I was really tired on the first day, so I don't remember much. I just remember that it was very bright and white in that house because the window was huge and it was snowy outside.
I'm not really an actress. There are simple little exchanges like, oh yeah, okay. Or that really fake, yeah, we're great. Those were easy for me because that's something that I would actually do, but the monologue was really difficult because I'm a giggler. We were talking about it like something that Momiji from Fruits Basket would say, but I took this Russian fairy tales class and it felt like that to me. So yeah, I had to approach it as if it were like really and truly a fairy tale to be able to do it as Cleopatra.
It definitely felt like a long day. But then again, now that I think about it, all 4 of these shoot days felt like long days because they were.
The brewery shoot was a very early morning after another very late night. The first shoot day, I was up late working on the horns. And before the brewery, I was up late working on building the lights that you see in that shot.
I had gone with Brittany to the hardware store, I think the night previous or 2 nights previous. Cleo's house, I have no idea what I'm walking into. I assume there's a living room and, a kitchen or whatever. The brewery, I had been there. I knew what it looked like. We knew we needed lights coming from the coffee table because if we didn't, all the lights were going to be coming top down. But she just made those lights and they worked wonderfully for what we needed.
And action.
They're coming.
How was the honeymoon?
It was nice.
It's also very important for me to make sure that we are not imposing or demanding things from our location beyond just permission to be there. So we bring all of our own stuff. We got a folding table so we could set all of our snacks up. We got a bunch of collapsible crates, which made it very easy to get everything moved between locations. We took our own trash can and our own trash bags too, and we took our trash with us when we left.
And we got a really cool connection to go film at Halfpenny Brewery. They were gracious enough to come in early in the morning and open for us. Not only is the space awesome, but they do not open until like 3 p.m., which gives us a wonderful window to shoot and not have anyone in there.
If you have a hand, you guys can help me move the chairs back there.
We had to get all of the restaurant ready, so we got there at 5 a.m.?
I lived like 2-3 minutes away, and I was there after they got there.
I think everybody got there at 5 a.m. and I got there at 5:30 because it was hard to get up.
Other people had to go spend the night at the Holtzmans because they had big commutes. There was this whole, it was a big production day.
There was a lot to take that day because we had a bunch of extras that were kind enough to come at a very early hour.
You have to expect to be there at least an hour early, if not a little bit more, because you're going to have to do foundation, contour, like full-on makeup. You need to get into that wig, which is way trickier than it sounds. And then on top of that, you have to get the horns attached without seeing like the clearing spaces between the horns and the hair, which is also a little trickier than it sounds.
Are you doing behind the scenes?
Yep.
The location had huge windows, so we brought ground cover stuff and a whole lot of tape, the kind that doesn't leave residue everywhere, so that we were able to control the light in the location, because this is one scene that takes place over a relatively short period of time, so you can't have an entire day's progression of light affecting it.
No, I don't think that's helping. Let's just roll it.
At 5 a.m., someone's up on a ladder. People are going to like their fitness place and you're doing crazy stuff and everyone's like, what are these people doing? Let's film to a T.
It's covering great and it's taping up great. So, and we're all here on time. They opened up the building for us because they're awesome. Yeah, now we're just trying to get started, and I guess all the girls in one got coffee instead of doing hair and makeup.
So I remember all of the succubi getting like dolled up and getting ready, like just short of putting our horns on and going like, okay, I cannot go a second further until we go to that Starbucks and get a freaking latte. Like we all turned into prima donnas at the same time, which was about 6 in the morning.
I feel like I'm getting ready to go out for an 80s workout, especially with like the bright pink. But I feel like it would be more authentic if I felt like, oh, you're filming this. No. Good morning.
I'm feeling good despite getting only a few hours of sleep last night. Made a bunch of wings until like 1 a.m. Go find the menu. It's awesome.
Hell's Kitchen. Wings to die for. Chicken wings, not like succubi wings.
Yes.
I was terrified there for a moment. I was like, what?
We just made one of the bathrooms for our succubi, and everybody else had to use the other one. That's good because it meant that we could take over that entire bathroom with everybody's stuff, which there was a lot of, with the costumes and the hair and the horns, without getting in the way of our extras.
Several people have to be jetting out of here fairly early, so we want to try and get this shot done so I can let you, the majority of you guys go, and then we'll just focus with the main cast and crew on stuff.
So we got the shots that involved everybody first, so we could let everybody else go and do what they needed to do with their day.
Out of all 4 production days, the one I was very, very, very aware of was the brewery day.
See, there's no one there with them, and it's just the 2 of them, and you maybe even raise the sound for the crowd, and you just like crank it up almost unbearably loud, and then you cut to...
Smash cut to, well, that was, terrible.
Yup. There's your mother flipping opening.
We only had an opportunity to go to the brewery and rehearse and film all in one time period. And there's a lot of technical stuff going on with this shoot. You need as much time as you can get. And again, that moving tracking shot, don't forget there was a sound guy. And he was getting the microphone where he could, when he could, and tried to stay out of frame. And stay out of the guy's way. Stay out of the actor's way. And so poor Dave is like walking behind the camera, like getting it in, getting it out, walking around, going this way, go! That's all choreography and blocking and rehearsal that you need to do. Connor Waris is about to rock the Steadicam shot. The Steadicam we had, but it's not a real Steadicam. It's basically just a piece of plywood, metal bars, and then weights to counterbalance the camera. Oh, that's right, the recorder broke.
It fell apparently at an angle that the headphones in there like somehow jacked up, the jack in.
Let's talk about how you screw over your sound guy. Don't let him hear anything he's recording. We can still take the audio file and find it. We're like, yes, it is recording, but he can't hear anything that's going on. Then take that guy, stick him behind the camera guy with the Steadicam, and the actors right in front of them, and they're just moving like this unit around the tables, and he's just following.
You guys are popping up after we're off you, and you're heading over here. Because by the time that we get over to here, Jezebel, you are rocking in and plunking down.
So I'm just sitting there with my little purple drink and trying so hard to look exactly where I'm supposed to be looking, and meanwhile Randall and Eleanor have their whole thing to get exactly right, and we went over it I don't even know how many times, probably an hour and a half worth. So I was really thankful I was sitting down. I think it would have been tricky to be the waitress as well, walking around in her perfect high heels and getting all of the steps exactly right.
Compared to everybody else, I had a very easy part. I got a little name tag. The I had a little heart. I thought that was fun. Luke asked me, hey, you want to be in my movie? And I was like, yeah. I've waitressed before, kind of. Luke asked me to have a high-pitched voice. Like, hey guys, what can I get for you? How's it going? I think we did that scene maybe 4 times. I had this really cool, flowy, orange and red shirt. I got that shirt probably for my 14th birthday. That was the only time I ever wore it. And I don't know if I'll ever wear it again. But it worked great.
This is where pre-production was so awesome. There was a little bit of Luke and I on the day saying, okay, we'll use this table and that's kind of how we'll make this work. So it was a little bit of adjustment, but it's one thing to have a plan and to adjust the plan than to go in there and be like, what the crap are we doing? We had the iPad set up, so Luke is actually in the shot, but he's watching the shot the entire time, which is, it's just cool technology, right? So he got to be a part of the shot and be like a little cameo, but also watch the entire shot take place and not have to follow them around or get in their way or anything like that.
Suddenly it got really bright in here, and it's because the window blackout fell, and so now it's daytime.
For the amount of space that we had to cover up, it worked really, really well. But it was a little bit tricky to get it all set up and to keep it all set up because you can't control the wind from the outside.
If you go looking for it, you'll start to notice, it's not just night outside. It's like pitch black outside. Ain't nothing happening out there. Where's the street lamps? Don't worry about it. It's just pitch black out there. There's nothing out there.
My name tag smudged. Oh no. So apparently 5 things just went wrong after this second take.
I'm Cree.
And action.
No one was allowed to talk. It was only noise when there were people who you had to see talk. So douche table did their noises when you saw them, and then they went immediately quiet as soon as the camera was gone. and you're just trying to make the best sound environment possible so you only pick up with the microphone exactly what you want to hear. I think we only did like maybe 3 to 5 takes max, and we nailed it. I can look back and say it's shaky. The camera gets caught on a horn at one point. There are problems with the shot. But for us at our level, we were just very thankful to have been able to do it at the level we were.
More wings, more beer. Your phone number.
I think this is my favorite scene in the whole film, just with how seamless it was.
A lot of the crew are extras in the scene, including myself and Brittany and Amy. I'm at the douche table and I'm just gonna have fun with this extra scene, so it's nice to change things up. Got all the crowd stuff done at the very beginning, let them all go, and you don't feel that at all during the scene. Why? Sound. And the sound part where we made them all be silent, yes, but we also got the boom mic and we said everyone just chat and just got some sound of the actual environment with people talking and filled up the space. That was the biggest shot of the day. That was the big thing.
What are you guys doing?
Fixing your tail.
To fix my butt.
Your butt.
Fix
Your
my
tail.
butt. My That's my official job title is butt fixer.
Butt fixer
Butt
and
fixer.
drink
Butt
giver.
Fixer and
Fake alcohol maker. Perfect.
We're just taking some random cutaway shots of different people eating and drinking and different things in the restaurant before everybody leaves for the day.
When do you want me to say bye? Like right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Roll camera.
Camera's rolling.
And action.
Bye.
And then we got one other shot with all the extras there, which was moving away from them at the very end. So that was really nice to get that accomplished. But that was just one part of the day. That was the first half of the day.
Cut.
But all the stuff with them with the couches, all the extras had gone home. That was a little tricky just because it's a tight space over there. We have to literally put the tripod in the corner.
Rotate. There we go. Now, point it at that.
Point the camera.
Way better.
We're doing good.
So the rest of the day was pretty easy. It's framing issues, directing and performance, and what do we want to get out of this? How many takes can we get before we need to just move on?
The scene came out exactly how it was supposed to because we just all actually felt so tense.
Okay, that was a little spidery, but that was a good motion. But you kind of did the finger thing.
Oh my god, this is fun. I felt like the mom on a really awkward Thanksgiving. Like, okay, everybody, we're all having fun, right? We're enjoying ourselves. I don't know what I'm gonna do when the food runs out.
Everybody else is awkward. You're cool, okay? So just bring that in, because that way everybody else is like, oh good, somebody else said something funny, all right? So they can all laugh except for him who's like, I have no idea what's going on.
We got some really nice looking shots. The light takes up a third of the frame, and then there's Daniel's lovely face right there just looking all like cool and stuff.
Cool.
Talia, can you scooch to your left a little bit? A little more. Even a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. People are constantly making fun of you, okay? Like, not okay, okay? Just everything is offensive to you.
Jezebel's boy toy has to get up and leave and come back and has to sit down, and then it's like she's gonna sit on his lap and get off of him, and there's all this movement going on.
You got dumped both times. Don't get dumped. Let him shuffle twice and then just like float off.
Luke was going for an awkward moment, so you had to be willing to let that pause be there.
What?
Your hair flip at the end was gold. Well, yes, I won. I'm out. Okay.
Bye.
We're starting from you guys walking in. We're doing the whole dang scene.
Okay, so
Okay.
Whole dang.
Okay.
they're coming.
Everyone was just so happy to be there. It helped with the early morning. I was tired, but it was awesome.
Okay, yeah, you're out. Step away.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't leave.
Yeah.
Take your take Blood is rushing back.
I had to take my wig off, but I couldn't leave yet because, like I said, my fiance is Randall, so he was my ride. It was kind of fun to get to watch them working too because the dynamic between Randall and Elinore is really interesting. The actors didn't know each other at all before this, so it was kind of fun to get to see them growing and figuring each other out. Yeah, they didn't even know each other from movie night.
And let's get this light in there, and let's get the drink in there, and let's just get something good looking in there. Camera is rolling, and action.
They're coming.
How was the honeymoon?
It was nice. What's this one's name?
Oh, sorry, I'm Sean. So things are going well?
It was one of the most stressed about days. At the end of the day, it was a lot smoother and a lot easier than some of the other days we're going to end up being. It was really cool. Really good shoot day. Happening Brew was awesome to host us. We got out of their hair early. Granted, it is one scene. It's not terribly long. So it took half a day, but half a day starting from 5 a.m.
What cereal would Randall eat when someone is preparing a meal for him?
There's some options. That does look a little bit too much like a grandmother cereal.
Yeah, these ones over here with the color.
And that is gluten-free, that's true. Good source of fiber for your children. So that's where I'm thinking, probably Honey Crunch, because that looks like something kids could approve of. Brittany really wants some puffin type stuff. I don't know if that's going to work real well. Panda Puffs?
You can't go wrong with Panda Puffs.
The nephews really like it, so.
Don't you like them too?
Yeah, so maybe we go with this.
Panda Puffs.
Boom. So we just left the store, and Brittany was like, hey, we don't need a cart, we could just get a single bag. But that was because we were only going to get dinner, but then we ended up buying stuff for the film shoot and for tomorrow's production meeting prior to the film shoot, plus a bunch of other stuff. And so we walked out of there having spent $133.
How many chickens did we buy?
We bought 3 chickens.
3 chickens.
So, this is the moment where it's like, why am I even spending this much money? Why am I even trying this? What's the point? It's I'm staring down a 9-page day on Saturday because we can't shoot the following weekend, which was going to be another shoot day. I tried editing together a couple of the scenes yesterday, and there's some rough audio stuff that I have to figure out. So it's just kind of really frustrating at the moment. But that's kind of all filmmaking, I guess. So there's nothing particularly new. I'm probably also a little bit hungry. It's 7:30 at night. We just got home. Time to get some food. So I don't know. It's just frustrating. There are definitely times when you're working on a project where you're just second guessing yourself the entire time. And when that happens and I get really depressed, I go sit in the bathtub for a while and take a really hot, really long bath. And then I often feel a little bit better. And then you have to get up and you have to keep going. You're going to make this project. So you get up and you head out for your next shoot day.
Jason and Laurel let us use their house for 2 days, pretty much all day.
They were really long days.
We used that for every scene that involved Eleanor and Randall's house.
The first thing I remember was parking. We carpooled there.
I think it was mine.
There's a ton of stuff, so we took the one area where we weren't shooting and we shoved everything we could in that location. Your living room is no longer your living room. It is now our equipment staging area.
So we rearranged some stuff in their little tiny entryway.
That's 8 feet 3 inches.
And turned it into a living room. And then used the actual living room for storing all of our stuff and our people.
And that's also where we took naps and watched Jason play Overwatch when we got bored and or tired.
Actually, move forward.
Instead of just watching Overwatch?
But, that's fun.
We also used one of their bedrooms upstairs and their bathroom upstairs. It worked out pretty well. It was just a lot of people in a tight space for a long time.
We used the blackout stuff again that we used at the brewery, and we put it over the windows. And we actually did this sort of tent thing so you could open the door even, and it was still black. It turned out really good for just getting some ground-covered tarp and just taping it up. But then we have these scenes where it's daytime, so we're using the natural light that was really nicely diffused through the curtain. But it's beautiful on half of Eleanor. And it's amazing. You have this giant silver freaking reflector, and you can barely get like half a stop's worth of light on someone's face. It was just a little starker than I think we wanted. We had this sort of one shot of him massaging her back. As a cam op, like, it's my job to know the lines because I have to figure out when to rack focus between these two people going back and forth in a conversation. And my memory, even though it just happened, isn't great. Like, I'm pretty sure he says something next. No, he does not. You might notice a rack focus or two where it's a little bit off, or you're kind of like, why are we doing that? Okay, fine. This was after she had, like, committed basically semi-adultery. She was a batter-up or something. I forget the metaphor.
In the dugout.
We didn't have a lot of blocking figured out, and we were just kind of on the gun going. What if we just focused in on the door handle, and then we just moved back real fast to see her come in? Why? Because it might be more interesting than just having a still wide looking at her coming through the door. I wish I was more intentional with every shot. What if we tried this? Sure, try it. It ended up being the movie. Yay. I was actually laying on the floor doing a nice low angle. It was kind of a nice happenstance that, in a way, he has all the power of the scene.
You're not like, Stella! You're more like, you know, like, is he in the bathroom? You know, like, Rand?
Oh, okay.
You know, like, where is he? And then it's like, oh crap, he's gone.
She's running after him. Like, clearly all the power is kind of resting on him and his response to things. And here we go. We have this super duper low angle, like, massive power. And it was really pretty too, because he shut the door, the curtains waved. That was, you know, just some nice shots we got in the room.
Let's try.
We shot like a montage sequence of him being sick and them being happy and having waffles together. And you keep trying things, and at one point Luke's like, just try this for me. Just get this waffle with the whipped cream on it. I want you to follow the waffle into his mouth. And I'm like, the what? Sorry? All right. He was trying things, but that was one of the ones that was like, okay, we'll try that. I don't think it made it.
It didn't even work at all, but it was so absurd. We're just gonna go with that. I think one of the craziest things going through this particular project was realizing that even after spending all of this time working on the script, really refining that, figuring out your shots, and really working on what we're filming, you get on set and then you don't know what you're doing. And the prime example of that was the panty. We literally had to stop filming and start working out how we're going to shoot this thing. Because my thought was that she takes her shoes out outside before sneaking in, but if she's so startled by him being there, then she wouldn't have expected him to be there.
He could be in the kitchen and walk out.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Let's do that. That way he's not creepily waiting. Well, and then he's already in motion, which would make more sense for why he'd bend over and pick it up.
Well, look, she could also be like pulling it out of the bag. She just brought her purchase home, right?
Yeah.
So there's no reason why she wouldn't necessarily be pulling it out to look at it.
Right.
And then if he startles her.
Right. She can drop everything.
She
you know,
can
so she
drop
have this,
everything.
and then be like, ah! And then he can be like, oh, sweet.
Well, and even if it doesn't
good.
fall all the way onto the ground,
Right.
he's probably seen enough to know what it is.
And then the kitchen was interesting too.
We shot the kitchen as though there was a wall where there was not a wall. The kitchen is actually open. We had to get a little bit creative to get the shot that we needed. I know there was one point when they were all crammed in the corner, but I don't remember the specifics of why.
Roll camera, roll sound. Camera rolling. Okay, here we go. And just stir and think and smile and...
We don't have a monitor. We have been using Connor's iPad to do sort of an external monitor thing the first day. Luke just jumped up on the counter behind me, and we were just both looking at literally the viewfinder, just trying to make sure we knew what was going on. And then Dave went around on the other side of the counter, and he just, boomed mic in. We did kind of a oneer. We're going to pan and pan and pan, do kind of a dirty handheld thing to make it feel a bit more rough because they're having an argument. This is one of those moments where Luke knows the script really better than I do. And it was just like, look, I'm not really conscious of this dialogue scene or what's going to be important to focus on. So why don't you just tap on my shoulder when you want me to move to the next person, and I'll just pan. And so that worked out okay.
You never seem interested.
I'm a succubus.
Yeah, exactly.
We had this waffle that we spray painted black and stuff.
Laurel had been trying to actually get a waffle to burn properly, and it wasn't working.
I don't even know if we see. Oh, do we see it? I think we may see it, like a glimpse of it.
She was very careful to make sure people knew not to eat that waffle.
That's toxic and it's got paint all over it. I mean, it's burnt. Who wants to eat a black waffle? I don't know, we weren't that hungry. Craft service did an excellent job. Food was good. We also had tacos that day, and that was delicious.
There's a scene where Eleanor is cooking, and we use the dolly.
And it was just not cooperating.
I think that's the only location that we used the dolly.
Yep.
We started to finally get the dolly to work right. We have two characters doing things. We got Eleanor chopping up vegetables and cooking and flipping her hair, which has a wrist guard. Shh. And then you've got Randall, who makes himself some cereal and leaves. And then we have to have a reaction. So I'm walking backwards, and I gotta do just the ever so slight, pan this way backwards. But since I'm moving, now I'm over here looking at it this way. So you get that going on the entire time, right? Plus the pan. So you're kind of doing this a little bit. And then on top of that, we were shooting low, shallow depth of field. Things are out of focus and stuff when you want them to be. I'm in rat focus. Grab that tripod handle and put the other hand on the focus ring and just start to get the handle on, okay, we're doing this, and then you're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna hold that for longer, then we're gonna do this when we're out. And so you're focusing on her, you're focusing on him, you're focusing on her, and then you're out.
Cut. Sweet. All right. Cool.
I just want you to know, it's so good, you don't even notice that it happened. But it was technically hard. We nailed it.
Jonathan was so excited when we got, he finished that, because he knew he nailed it. And it was pretty cool.
It's like 3 or 4 rack focuses while moving
In
the
that
dolly.
outfit. Both those outfits.
What outfit am I?
Yeah, okay, we are wrapping now for today.
Woo!
Hey, we got through 9 pages of stuff today. 9 pages. What the crap? And we didn't go until 10 o'clock or even 8. Woo!
I light all these freaking characters for you. You won't light me well in the interview? Come on, man. I'm done. Day 4 was a long day. It is kind of amazing all the work we did that day and how much of the precarious work we did that day. We wanted a shot top down, just looking at them in bed. And you won't have any idea that it was any harder than any of the other shots. But yeah, we got a ladder, and then we got the tripod, and we extended it as long as it would go.
Right. I have no idea how this is going to work.
And then we put that on the ladder, like on the very top, and we put sandbags on the back end of the tripod where the camera would not be, while we also had the camera, attached to the tripod on the front side. Meanwhile, I'm also getting up on the bed and touching things and getting the camera around, you guys ready? All right, let's do this. The tripod's pretty strong. I mean, it's designed to take stress going down, not to the side. Quite frankly, if anything cracks and breaks, I'm grabbing my camera, and yeah, I'm not going to break my camera. It's not going to happen. It worked just fine. Tripod worked fine. In fact, I ended up using that same trick on a totally different project because it works, and it's a cheap way to do that. Who needs no crane? I got a ladder, a tripod, and fear. That's what I've got. Let's do it. Now, here's the other thing about the bedroom. If you were on a normal film set, and by normal, I just mean you had a budget, you don't have your director do the grip stuff. They're not carrying things. They're not taping up the ground wrap stuff. They're not doing any of that. They're busy trying to talk with actors, make decisions, and get things done.
There's an anger about that?
Well, not on our set. On this set, we have Luke everything because he's tall. We had a shot where we were looking from the bedroom into the hallway. Getting the bedroom to be dark, not very hard. Just tape up, get that one window done, you're done. But you've got a skylight in the hallway, and then you've got all the spill light from the downstairs, so you can't have either of those. So Luke got on the ladder, and he climbed up to the very top of the A ladder, which if he falls at any point, normally that would be bad. But if he falls to his left, he falls not to the ground, but down the stairs to the ground floor. And apparently Luke doesn't like heights. And he's like, we just got to get this done, and I'm the tallest person. And it's like, all right, director, let's do this. The things you're doing just so that it can be dark in the freaking room so you can get the shot you need. We also got a ton of black going on the stairway, so we could just block the light from that one entranceway. So we had a lot of black ground wrap and blacking out for that entire scene. We were lighting the bedroom with the lights that were in the bedroom. And we actually got some decent shots. And it's dramatic, and it works just fine. No other lights. Okay, yeah, let's talk about some other things about the bedroom. I think I'm pretty thankful because there was this whole wardrobe decision. Luke wanted this nightgown, yeah, pretty risque lingerie thing that Emma was gonna wear. And I never saw it because that thing did not work. What we ended up doing was she just put on a button-up, like as if it was one of Randall's button-ups.
Let's do it. Okay.
So we had scenes where, dude, hey Morgan, dude, how do you feel about taking your pants off and we'll film you? People are there with a camera and lights, and there's like multiple people just watching them do stuff. It's sort of awkward. When you're watching it, just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe I'm just jaded and seeing too much HBO, I don't know. But when you're in the room, you're like, oh my goodness, how dare we make them show their thighs? Anyway, so that was an interesting thing that was going on. We dolly to him, and then she's just right there like, yo, I ain't done. I think it was kind of clever when we came up with it. I don't know if anyone's laughed or felt anything when we've done that. That was definitely an intentional move to try to make that sort of confrontation blocking wise. This shot that was supposed to connect that she was moving around to her side of the bed. For some weird reason, it's like pale greenish yellow. Then it looks in the editing room like eventually resolve, color grading, does nothing. The shot is screwed. But we still need it because we still gotta get her from one side of the room to the other. And that's what we had to do. So I apologize for the puke green shot in the film.
Sorry. Guess I'm getting a little hangry.
The cats were sequestered off into the other upstairs bedroom. One of the cats in particular escaped, and he's a really grumpy cat to begin with. I had to chase him through the house with a jacket. He's like all claws. He's huge too. And wrestle him back into the upstairs bedroom without letting the other cat out. So that was one of the logistics we had to work with there.
The bathroom shot. Cramped quarters. Bathrooms, mirrors, always dangerous. She comes in, turns on the water, sound effects. Haha! And then she's looking at herself in the mirror. And I'm still pissed about this. Out of focus and focus. Yes, we're good. Okay, I screwed that up. Let's go. And then there was the whole, she's taking her shirt off or whatever and getting into the shower. In fact, I'm not even sure why we need to show any of this, but we did. Two things. One, she doesn't need to take her shirt off, because why do we need to make her take her shirt off? Because there's no need for her to take her shirt off. Two, she can't take her shirt off. She's got horns, a wig, and these magnet things on this headband on her, and then she's got the tail. So taking her shirt off became, grab your shirt, get up like this, and that's it. Not actually showing skin.
Wow. All right. Cool.
I don't know if anyone's laughing or if anyone's even aware of what's happening in the movie at this point. It makes me giggle a little bit each time I see it. But he's just like on his side, like trying to sleep, and then pops up Elinore. Just parallels. She does that, you know, she kind of pops up to like try to do something, but she also pops up when she wakes up, sort of like. I lay down here and there when we had a chance. You know who didn't get much of a chance? Emma. Emma is like running to try to get to the next costume for the next scene. I think it was in a place where I was just kind of tired and we've been doing lots of hard shots. And I was like, we need to pick up these panties. And I was like, yeah, all right, here's your panty pickup. I like threw the thing on the ground, got the camera and like pop, pop, pop. Easiest shot of the day.
My job here is done and now I'm ashamed. I go home.
After we got that done, we packed up all the equipment and we were ready to go.
As with, other locations, we were very careful to make sure that we take everything with us when we left so that they might like us enough to let us use space again if we needed it.
Luke was kind enough to get us all dinner, and it was a nice way to just kind of start to decompress from all the work that had been done.
Post-production started with our tech test. We needed to know, can we do a round trip where you take your high-resolution footage, you compress it into a low-res, edit off of that lower res, and then once your edit is complete, replace that footage again with your original instead of working with that high-end stuff. And yes, that worked. But then when I got to the edit bay and I actually started working with the footage, I was like, I'll just work with the raw. I would launch my program and then I'd have to wait a full minute while my 8 cores at 4 gigahertz were pegged at 100%. It was struggling to keep up with my 4K footage. I save a new project version every single day that I edit, which serves 2 functions. If I ever were to break something or if my file was to ever get destroyed, no problem, I'll just go back a day and I only lose a day worth of editing. The other great benefit, I'm able to keep track of how many days I've been working on a project. 47 edit days on this one. The initial edit came together really quickly, and that's because we get just a few shots of everything and then we move on because we shoot at such a ridiculous pace. I think one of the most difficult shots to choose was that very opening one, because as Skylar picks up his Stein, he actually takes one of the pieces of paper that was holding the wings, so you can't actually see the table strewn with wings and Steins, which is why the line is supposed to be more funny.
More wings, more beer.
Because they've got so many, there's no way that they would actually need more. So that humor bit gets lost, but the performances were really good.
They've always been kind of peculiar.
True.
So the initial assembly edit is only a few days. And then I bumped into audio. I had not taken the time to sync the audio before I started editing, which meant that now I needed to go in and find the point where that clip is used and then drop it in the timeline and sync it up. And that was probably 4 to 8 edit days in and of itself. My goodness, was that a waste of time. And it really slows down the production. I'm slogging through it, and so I get home. Do I feel like working on audio? No, I'm just going to play some video games. There are certain scenes where we just didn't have audio from the camera, and so I would have to try and sync up audio to just mouth movements. I think the first one that I ran into was when she says, bye, and then you clean up all of the audio, and then you move on. Really early on, I was showing it to some people, and one of them was like, I'm not catching the time that's passing. And so Jonathan and I brainstormed a little bit, and ultimately we fell on the idea of, okay, well, let's just do these little like day markers. And I typically hate things like Saturday. Now it's Monday. Because in most of those cases, it doesn't matter. You don't need it. Secondly, it feels like you're cheating. Hey, time's passing. Here's some text, rather than like visually telling the story. Initially in my script, it just kind of flows. And her lines of dialogue, we haven't had sex in 9 days. There's been this building thing for a while. Like the actual time doesn't really matter. But once we started putting in the little day markers, I do think it helps, especially by the time that you get to day 41. Because then it doesn't even matter that you're not thinking specifically about how long that actually is, but it does give you this like extra point of intensity. Like this actually is pretty bad. I also didn't really want to have to define succubus, but I did need to. So I started with that. And that's in there. Another crazy thing that you find in the edit bay is that there is literally no coverage for certain moments. It's really weird to write the script, to go through the pre-production process, to do the shot lists, to be on set and shoot it all, and then to get in the edit bay and be like, wow, I'm missing footage. One of the worst offending scenes is when she comes back with the green panty, and we never got shots of what we could cut to for what they're looking at. We even went back and got some extra coverage. Even with that, we were missing things. I'm not really sure how to figure that out, because how do you think of stuff that you don't think of until you're in the edit bay and go, wow, I really needed that. And so there are audio cues that we had to do throughout that scene to help you recognize it. I couldn't get them back into the studio here, my house. I couldn't get him back over to record for me. He just said, hey, Emma, can you just record a whole bunch of gasps? I can't direct. I'm not even there. And so that ultimately worked for that scene to at least give you the impression of what was going on. Daniel was not even in the same state to work with me. Can you go to a quiet place in your house, use your phone, record some audio, and then send it to me?
Hey, it's not all that bad. Hey, it's not all that bad. Hey, it's not all that bad.
I knew I wanted to do a little bit more of a soundscape than I've done in the past. Okay, for this scene, I need sound of her fingers tapping. I would pause my playthrough, run upstairs, and I just kind of tap. And then I'd run back downstairs, plug in the card, pull the audio file across, clean it up, drop it into the timeline, find one that worked, do it, be like, yeah, okay, that works. Okay, what's the next thing I need? Jonathan was like, there should be like this sense of dread as she's laying in bed waiting for her husband to come upstairs. So I set the recorder at the top of the stairs, and I started recording. I run downstairs, and I walk upstairs. So you're doing all this work, clip by clip, to drop in these sounds, and I'm not an audio guy. That's painfully clear as you watch this film, but it was actually a lot of fun to start playing with audio and to build stuff out. Part of that was using a whole new program. I had done some research into the different DAWs or digital audio workstations. Reaper actually is pretty cool. I'm still an absolute amateur. Okay, if I'm bad at sound, I'm really bad at music. I knew that I wanted saxophone. Uber sexy jazz. And Jonathan was like, saxophone? But that first scene, the saxophone was perfect. And then I didn't have music for a lot of the rest of my movie. I was like, yeah, well, you know, saxophone. Let me just go find some more and just throw it in. Here, let me play you a bit. Yeah. Probably good that I cut that. Jonathan actually worked on some music for me. The sounds of when the days appear. I really like it. I think it turned out really, really well. There were shots where the boom pole totally just drops into frame.
And there's one really good edit that Luke did where the boom mic dipped into frame during the shot that we wanted to use. And Luke did a good job of basically just editing that out. I guarantee you had no idea.
And thankfully I have some experience covering stuff up, going all the way back to the disembodied hand for Mathtacular 4. And then I came to where the mic just drops in on top of Shen's hat. But Shen also moves, so it's not static. And so I just took a different emblem of the clip and stuck it over it. And there's actually a disconnect in his hat. It like breaks. It's brief. And that's not at all what you're focusing on, and if you are, then I have bored you in my movie, and I'm sorry. In order to light people's faces in the opening shot while they're sitting around the couches, we actually move the lights in, and we have people holding the lights like right next to their faces to get enough light there, and you see the light kind of shift and move, and so I tried to cover that up as well. When we did our dolly shot across the bedroom, you could see the light through the door. That was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because it's humans, us, just rolling it along my little homemade dolly. I had to like track it by the frame because you could see a little bit of it and then it would drop back and it was, so you're in there like moving it just ever so slightly to make it work. Ultimately works out okay. Lighting didn't turn out as well as I would have liked in some of the shots. It was really overblown in Cleo's house, but that's because we were shooting really fast. We're always shooting fast. That should go without saying. So because of our production schedule, I know Jonathan's still not super happy. It's overblown, but at the same time, I was able to pull that back a little bit and think what we ended up with looks really good. When we were shooting in the entryway, there's not enough light on her face. I had to work pretty hard to try and get that to match up, and it still isn't perfect, but it's also not bad either.
It's funny watching this scene where Randall is not reading because like nothing's happening. It was way better once we figured out, oh, he should be doing something, which is why they're not connecting. But we had to figure that out on set. It wasn't in the script.
After doing the color correcting in Damsels, I was really excited about the possibility of playing with color in this movie. And my first pass, I was punching the color through the roof because I was like, man, we've got reds and purples, we got this pink. And Jonathan took one look at that and he was like, dude, no, take it back a notch. And so I did, and it was significantly better. In that very first shot, there's the little pink ribbon, and I was like, that color needs to match the hair. And so I keyframed various shapes around the hair as it bobbed and moved through the frame so I could color correct the hair without other things getting color corrected. But then by the time that the camera has gone around the room and is coming back, I was like, is it worth it to color correct the rest of this? No. I only have the color corrected pink hair for that very first intro shot. You've got the idea at least. Now we can move on. So good morning. It's a little bit before 6 a.m., the day before Christmas Eve. So I have the day off so I can start editing, and this is edit day 45. Last night I had the opportunity to sit down, watch it on the big screen 4K TV with a full sound system behind it. Boy, it sounds different. I've got about a page of notes, including more black. Merry Christmas. And let's see what happens from here. One of the goals of this film was to slow down. I make really fast films, especially after Damsels the year before, where it was like super fast. And so having a really long 2-minute plus opening shot really helps because you can't edit it all during that time. You just let it flow. The very first scene was supposed to be this like painfully awkward, hilarious, oh my goodness, everybody's so uncomfortable scene. And so that was good because that forced me to kind of like stretch time and like just wait because people are uncomfortable. and it's okay that they're all waiting. That's fine. And so doing that was okay, but then as people would see cuts, they'd be like, wow, Luke, that's still going really fast. I'm like, I am trying to slow down. I felt like it was already pretty long with Randall in the bathroom and Eleanor waiting for him to come out, and so I kind of like sped it up, and Amy was like, nope, slow that down. Give me more time to be like, oh, she's waiting, and that's what's going to happen. I was like, okay, more time on the leg, sounds good to me. With this Night of Darkness scene, Amy was like, Luke, you gotta give me more time. I was like, well, it kind of fades to black. And she's like, yeah, and then it comes immediately back. And so I actually went in and I think I added like 3 seconds of black. Because before it was just like, gotta keep moving. Slow down, man. Similarly, with Cleopatra's story at the end, just kind of pulled that all apart a little bit more. And even so now, it's like, yep, it's still a little fast. I'm so used to speed. It was fun to see that even though I was trying desperately to go slower, I didn't.
Well, it is Thursday, January 5th, 2017, and tonight is the night that we are doing the big premiere for Eros Elinore. But it is 8 degrees outside, and it's been snowing just a little bit all day and very, very cold. So we're not actually sure how many people are going to show up because the weather is kind of hazardous outside. Luke's outside shoveling just in case people show up, and then we're going to get some snacks together and clean things up and make it look pretty and make ourselves look pretty. And it may be a small crowd, but we will have the premiere. Should be fun, whatever happens. Unpredictability is a normal part of filmmaking, and also apparently film celebrating and premiere and really kind of, I think, any event or project. So it's all good. It's going to be good.
The fact that we worked through the one shot at the beginning, the fact that we were like, whatever it takes, we're getting a dolly to go through this shot as she lays down. We took the time to say, this is where motion matters, and we got it. That's a huge improvement over any of our previous projects.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on that's just visually arresting, even when it's subtle. And the thing is, I don't believe that we were being too fancy about it. It wasn't like, this dolly shot in this personal moment is going to be really cool. It was just like, we're just going to move the camera a little bit because it makes sense. The whole thing's paced differently than usual. And so when you've got the motion shots, they don't feel out of place. Now there's shots that don't look right in color. There's shots that don't feel right because of whatever the choreography or everything is. And our biggest bane is sound.
The thing that we're not very good at, this sound thing.
My job on set is to make sure the image looks good. And even that's got problems. And your job is to make sure the performances and the choreography are there. And even that's got problems.
We don't even get the pickups in the other shots that we need. We're just struggling, partly because of my scheduling, to punch through basic coverage. And we'll take the same shot 6 times. And so then we're like, wow, I got so much coverage. But it's like, no, Luke, you have 2 different shots of the same dang thing.
It's camera setup and framing issues.
Yep.
Choreography issues between the camera and the actors.
Yep.
And then the performance issues. And or lines that are remembered or not remembered.
And if they even read the script before you got on set.
Again, you can tell the scenes we took time on. We took a lot of time on that opening shot. It shows in a good way. It's alive, and that's why I can feel it ebb and flow and be like, I like that shot. This shot sucks.
It looks really good in ways that we haven't been able to do in the past because we're at a point where the tech actually makes a difference because our art is getting better.
That is the low budget mindset. We don't have time to try to set everything up perfectly the way we envisioned it. But there's a certain level with the latitude of the tech, it does enable us to move forward. The point of tech is always just to make your life easier so you can focus on what you actually have to focus on. The dolly shots were interesting because the dolly was makeshift, but they got some cool motion out of it. I'll always be proud of the dolly shot of her in the kitchen. It's this whole choreographed thing to make the timing just right. I think we did it well enough where you won't notice it was a technical challenge. And that's an accomplishment.
That is a skateboard dolly. It's one that I designed even. And so it's this dolly that I'm like, click here for this link to build your own. And you too can get these kinds of shots. Like, that is super exciting to me. The fact that we used, this Steadicam that I built for $25 based off of the instructions that I read online when I was in college. Like, that's so near to my heart because I want kids to be able to be like, I can do that. You can start today. And yeah, your project's not going to be great, just like mine's not going to be great,
And then you can move on to the higher tech, but you kind of strengthened your chops through this low tech, really inexpensive way of getting into film.
You can tell the parts we thought about or did well because it was like, what do we really want to do? And then what do we have available to make that happen? You could have done the same opening shot with handheld, or you can use your $1,000 movie. And yeah, it certainly helps, but at the end of the day, the choreography is the thing that matters.
Yeah.
Because this little character moment happens, and this thing's being revealed. And that's the stuff that makes it fun to watch. So yeah, you can spend $5 or whatever on your dolly, but it's the brain. That's the part that makes it something you can be proud of. Is like, you thought about it and you worked it until you could get it to a place where you were like, this is cool. So yeah, the opening of the movie, it feels good because yeah, we got a lot of tech we're using, a lot of people who are willing to come, but at the same time, we knew enough about what we were trying to get done in that place that it came together.
For as bad as pre-production was, we spent way more time doing pre-production on this project than on any of my previous projects. Like 6 months. And I was like, no, it was like 2 weeks, wasn't it? No, we spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I think that pays off in how things look because we actually practiced camera motion. We actually talked through blocking and setups.
And yeah, the funny thing is we didn't work on it that long. The one shot, we talked it through. We wouldn't practice it once.
Yes. We spent only an hour and a half diagramming out the set, talking through, oh wait, no, they have to go this way. Oh wait, we need somebody to come on this way. And then we only spent another like 30 minutes to going upstairs, setting up the chairs and walking through it a couple of times. And that was just for that one shot. How much time you spend does impact things, but it doesn't even have to be that much. We're exponentially growing just because we're spending hours instead of, hey, I've got 10 minutes to try and explain this entire movie to people before we start filming because we're going to try to shoot a 7-page script in 3.5 hours. Thank you for watching the documentary. It's been a few years. I was working on the edit and I was actually pretty far along. I didn't have a good conclusion, so I was still trying to figure that out. And I normally move everything that I record like this over from my C drive onto my Media D drive. Then I lost my C drive and I realized that I was missing interviews that I'd done with myself. And that just took the wind out of the sails for me. Oh. And then I had a child. And then I had a second child. And so I haven't had as much time to work on projects. I was on a path for like a film a year. That was kind of my goal. That has not happened for many years. Going in and finishing up this documentary and being like, okay, before I lose another hard drive, I should probably get this out there for you. But this has really inspired me. I really like talking about the process. And I've been shooting a ton of behind the scenes for my work stuff, but I don't know when I will ever have time to cut a documentary about that project, although we have some gold. And I would love like a 16-hour documentary on that because it's been amazing. And I have spent some time working on some scripts. So I am hopeful they'll have something new soonish, kind of like this documentary that came out half a decade after I made the film. But, you know, my family, my kids, they definitely come first. So thank you for watching, and hopefully there'll be more coming in the nearish future.